Wait for a couple more people to get in here. Started a live. I know it's been a couple weeks, but just wanted to make a live for you guys. It's been a minute. Until we get some people on here. If you just logged in and you can hear me, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. So, what I'm going to talk about this evening, I know it's been a minute since I jumped on here, but I wanted to jump on here and talk to you guys about your reactions whenever you get into a conversation that ends up being an argument with your woman, your spouse, significant other. I wanted to talk to you about what to do instead of getting upset and exploding and just being reactive, because when you're reactive in a relationship and you get angry and frustrated and you go from 0 to 100, it can mess up the relationship long term. In the moment, you may feel that it's not a big deal, but it will end up being detrimental to the health of your relationship. So, if you're the type of guy that you argue with your woman, you get very upset, and you notice that you have a temper and you can't really control it, or you can control it, but it's bad. It's where you go from 0 to 100. This video is for you, and I want you to understand why you do what you do, but also the mechanisms behind it. Because if you're the type of person that when you're discussing something with your woman and it gets really heated, you start to feel your heart racing, you start to feel maybe your chest getting tight, you start to feel your palms sweating, all these body sensations, you start to feel these things, and it ends up being worse than you expect it to be. And what I mean by that is everything's calm, everything's good, but you just start to notice these sensations. And then you start to notice that you start to talk maybe a little bit faster, maybe a little bit louder, maybe more aggressive, and you snap, you go out of control. Maybe you just end up being very reactive. The thing is, what a lot of men don't understand and realize, and this is going to sound crazy, but you have to understand that the reasons why you get so upset with your woman and the reasons why you get so angry and you snap, and the reasons why you get so angry and you snap, these stupid ass drivers out here, man. The reasons why you get so angry and you snap is because there is parts of you that I hate to say it, but there's parts of you that come from trauma that has happened to you when you were younger. And understand, I'm not a therapist. This is not medical advice or nothing like that. What I'm trying to say is that when you are a younger boy, it doesn't matter if you was raised in a great household. It doesn't matter if everything was perfect. You always will have some type of traumatic experience that you may not even remember. It doesn't have to be that somebody yelled at you or beat you or you were bullied or nothing like it's nothing like that. It's more of the fact that when you're younger, it's just shit happens, you know? It's things happens that end up being stored in your body, right? And so your body doesn't know how to release and let go of whatever traumatic experience that you had. It's not saying that you are messed up. I'm not saying that. But what happens is your body holds on to that when you're younger because you're going through life. You have a job, you have school, you're living life. And once you get into a relationship and you somewhat settle down, maybe you're in your career and things kind of slow down a little bit, and you're with the woman and you have that strong connection, and that's the person that you're with 24/7 because she's your wife or your fiance or whatever. What happens is a lot of those old wounds and a lot of those traumatic experiences that you may not even remember, like I said, it doesn't have to be somebody beat you or mistreat you or nothing like that. A lot of those old wounds open up, and what happens is whenever your wife or fiance or your woman says something, what ends up happening is it's like a trigger, right? She may say something or do something, and she may not be trying to get a reaction out of you. She may not be trying to hurt you or anything like that. And it's not her necessarily, it's the trigger that causes you to have those type of emotions and those thoughts and those feelings that you may not be able to explain. One minute you're like, hey, I'm fine, but I don't know. She says this, and it just tips me off. It upsets me. It pisses me off. I don't like when she does this. I don't like when she does that. And it's a trigger. It's not it's not necessarily her actually like it's she. How can I put this? She doesn't control your emotions. She doesn't control your reactions. It's how you interpret what she says or what she does that causes you subconsciously and consciously, that causes you to act a certain way that you may not be able to explain. And the reason you can't explain it is because of the traumatic experiences that you have went through before. Now, the other thing I will say this, understand, I just want you guys to understand this. It's not about victim blaming. It's not about poor me because none of you guys are victims. What I'm saying is when I understand, when I say traumatic experience, it's not like you have PTSD. It's not like you were abused. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is something simple. You could have fell off your bike a few times, and as you got older, you pains in your body. Like what I'm saying is like those sensations that you have in your body, right? Those are sensations that come from the pain that you may have felt, whether it was physical or mental, whether it was the girl that broke up with you in the sixth grade, or whether you fell off your bike and that pain is stored in your body and it doesn't release until later on, but it releases in a way of you being angry. So it's deeper than just the you just got beat when I was a kid. It's not that. The other thing you have to understand is sometimes things that you were yearning when you were younger, maybe people didn't listen to you, maybe nobody understood you. Maybe your parents didn't give you the time of day because they were busy with their careers or their jobs. It's a lot of other things. I'm not going to go into that because, like I said, I'm not a psychotherapist. This is not medical advice. I'm just kind of breaking it down for you so you can understand it in your point of view and understand so you can digest it. So, what ends up happening is when you have those experiences, a lot of times it's because those experiences happen because you haven't trained your mind to understand that one, It's twofold. The first thing is you have to train your mind to understand that one, you're not under attack, right? You're not under attack. And two, you have to train your mind to understand that the reason why you get so angry and upset with your woman, it has nothing to do with her and it has more to do with you than anything else. And the reason why I said that it has to do with you is because, as I mentioned earlier, when you were younger, there's a lot of traumatic experiences that you went through. And a lot of times that ends up being the thing that you're running away from. And let me explain what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is when you have those experiences and you get older and you're like, man, I'm angry. I don't know where this anger is coming from. I get pissed off and I try to breathe. I try to do this and that. And I just don't know why I get so angry. And you try to push it off. You try to ignore it in a sense. And the reason why it doesn't work is because that anger is that little boy that you were that wants to express the anger and his hurt in a positive sense, but he's not able to. So just imagine this kid is at your door. You have a nice home, you're established, you have the career, you have the woman, everything's going good. But this kid comes and knocks on your door, and you're like, who's this kid that's all dirty and he looks hungry, he looks homeless? Like, who is this kid? That kid is you. And every time you try to suppress your anger, you end up telling that kid, fuck off, and I don't want anything to do with you. And the suppression of that anger comes out in you lashing out and being violent or physical or just being very angry and not understanding why. That's why, because you're pushing it away. And the only way that it can express itself is lashing out, if that makes sense. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what happens. Let me see real quick. Everyone has trauma. Real men handle that shit. No excuses for violence. Exactly. Exactly. There's no excuses for violence. And here's the thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that because the problem happens when you don't know how to handle yourself before it goes from 0 to 100. And I'll explain exactly what I mean. Give me 1 second. I got to do something, but I'll explain exactly what I mean. Give me 1 second. To keep us safe and to survive. That is the main purpose of our body and our mind, is to keep us safe and to make sure we survive, right? Now, what happened is over time, everything evolved. We evolved, the world, technology, everything has advanced and evolved to the point where a lot of things that were beneficial to us during caveman times, way, way back in the day, before all of this was established, a lot of those things were beneficial. And those things meaning the way your body was made. So the hormones, your thoughts, everything that is in your mind and your body, all of those things were designed to make sure that you were safe and you survived. But as we evolved, the body and the mind really didn't understand that, hey, we don't need that much anger. We don't need all of this cortisol and this adrenaline pumping through our body. We don't need that. Your body and your mind didn't understand, hey, we don't need anxiety. We don't need fear because we're not running from saber-toothed tigers anymore. We're not trying to get out of Dodge. We didn't need the high amount of fight or flight energy that we needed back in the day that our body uses now in the wrong way. So back in the day, like I said, we needed we needed to be able to fight or flight. If you seen a saber-tooth tiger, you seen something that was dangerous, you need to get your family and your kids away and go to safety and survive. If you had to fight and stand your ground back in the day, guess what? You had to be able to fight. So understand those two things, the fight or flight. Now, I also want you to understand when it comes to reproduction, right? Reproduce, being able to reproduce, we needed those hormones as well to keep going. And that's the only thing that we kind of need compared to before because we need to keep procreating, right? Give me 1 second. I gotta handle something. I'll be right back on here. Just stand. Just wait a minute. 1 second. I gotta do my thing. But so being able to reproduce, right? So let me make this simple and clear so you can understand it. Let me make it simple and clear, right? So you needed all of those. You need to be able to fight. You need to be able to flight. You also needed to be able to reproduce, right? Now, when you get upset and you start to become angry, your mind doesn't know if that is a real threat or not. It doesn't know that, hey, I just had an argument with a woman or we're arguing right now. Your mind doesn't know that, hey, that's actually not a threat. You don't have to go hard. You don't have to, use violence. You don't. But the crazy thing is, it becomes a problem when you don't stop before it escalates. And let me explain what I'm trying to say so it makes sense. So I'm gonna use some examples here so it makes a lot of sense, right? Now, when it comes to drinking and driving or whatever, a lot of people say, "Hey, why am I being responsible? Why am I getting in trouble? Because if I did something that hurt somebody or I did something stupid while I was drunk, I didn't know what I was doing. Why am I being held responsible for it? I didn't know what I was doing anyway, so how can that doesn't make any sense?" Here's the thing. There's a certain limit. So if you drink more than your limit and you do something stupid, you're held responsible because there's a gap between knowing that you shouldn't drink too much and drinking too much. Meaning, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit, a little bit tipsy. I need to slow down or take a break. But if you say, yeah, I'm starting to feel tipsy, I'm really feeling it. Let me keep drinking some more. Let me keep drinking some more. After you do that and you do something stupid, that's when you become responsible for it because you made a conscious decision to continue to drink. It may not make sense, especially for my younger guys, but that's what it is. So let's bring that into the situation with anything else. Let's talk about being anxious, right? Anxiety, whatever. The whole point of anxiety is to keep you safe. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point is for you to be able to flight whenever there's danger, right? And what happens is your brain, whenever you're in a situation, you think about something. When you have those thoughts of fear or anxious feelings or thoughts or whatever, your brain is saying, hey, look, this guy is anxious about something. Maybe there's something that we need to get him away from. So, guess what? You start to feel the butterflies in your stomach. You start to feel your heart beat a little bit faster. You start to feel the blood go to your fist. You start to feel the blood go to your leg. It starts to leave your brain. And you get lightheaded sometimes because your body is utilizing all of its energy to get you the fuck away from there. And so when you're not in a real dangerous situation and it's time for you to flight, you will feel those sensations because your body is just trying to protect you. Your mind is trying to protect you and it doesn't know that whatever situation you're in, it doesn't know if it's dangerous or not. It just knows, hey, This motherfucker is afraid of something. So we're going to send the adrenaline. We're going to send all of this stuff to his muscles, the blood pumping. We're going to do all that because we need to keep this guy safe. And so when that happens, you have almost a third of a second before you even can realize that you're ready to flight, and you feel those sensations. And what you do with that is up to you. If there's no real danger there, guess what? You feel those sensations. You're like, oh, fuck, I'm anxious. Like, I'm panicking because there's no real danger there. So you're noticing all of those sensations. You're noticing the thought, all those things, because there's nothing for you to fight there. But when you actually do have something to run away from or fight or whatever, then you don't think about those things because your body is just doing what it's supposed to do. Your body's just trying to keep you safe. And if there is an actual threat, you're safe. You don't think about anything else except, oh man, I'm safe. I was able to run the fuck away from that, or I was able to avoid this or that. So you utilize the energy that your body was producing. You utilize it for what it was made for, if that makes sense. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense, right? Now, let's talk about reproduction, sex. When you get horny, you have a hard on. When that happens, what happens? The blood flows through your penis, you get an erection, and you have sex. And when you have sex and you're about to ejaculate, what happens? As soon as you're about to ejaculate, there's no point of return. You can't do anything else because guess what? Remember, I mentioned that third of a second? Well, your body is trying to procreate. You're telling your body that, hey, this guy is turned on by this woman. Okay, we're going to send the blood to his penis. Okay, we need to procreate. We need to survive. Remember earlier, I said survival. The reason why you have the fight or flight response is for survival. And guess what? Procreation is also for survival. So your body is sending the blood to your penis. You feel turned on. And when you have sex with that woman, sooner or later you ejaculate because it's trying to make sure that your species and obviously your DNA survives and you procreate, and that's why that happens. So your body is designed to do everything to make sure you are surviving, right? Now let's talk about the anger, all of that. Same thing. When you are angry and you get upset, your body and your mind doesn't know if it's a real threat. Now, add on top of that what I said before, the trauma, the things that you went through, whatever it was that was stored in your body, that is what intensifies it. So now your body is saying, hey, this guy is upset. Something is bothering him. Something is triggering him. We don't know what it is. We just know we want to make sure he survives. So it does the same thing. Your heart starts beating a little bit faster. Your palms get sweaty. You may clench your fist. You may grit your teeth. You may feel a little lightheaded, tunnel vision, because your body is trying to make sure you survive. It doesn't know that a little misunderstanding with your woman is not a threat. It just knows these sensations that you get or the thoughts that you have, it internalizes that as it is a threat that you need to survive. And so when that happens, you have a third of a second, right? Because when you don't intervene and you don't interject between that time of you realizing, like, okay, I'm starting to get upset, I'm starting to feel these sensations in my body. Let me take a walk. Let me do something totally different. Let me breathe. When you don't do those things and all your body knows and your mind knows is like, we get upset, that person pissed me off, I get angry, I lash out, that's it. It's going to continue to do that. It's going to continue to do that. I don't mean to scare you or anything like that. However, it's going to continue to do that. But the problem is, that you're not controlling your anger the way you need to control it, because it's like you have to stop the cycle before it becomes something worse, before it explodes, right? You have to stop the cycle before it explodes, because when you always get that shot of adrenaline and cortisol all the time, over and over, and you're not effectively releasing stress or whatever you've been through, and you're just taking it out on your significant other, whenever you do that, the problem is it's training your mind to respond that way all the time, because you're not intervening, you're not doing anything different. And you have that third of a second. And I want to say that, honestly, I want to say it happens a lot quicker than you being anxious or you ejaculating than anything else, because it's trying to survive. It's really trying to survive in that moment, if that makes sense. It's really trying to survive in that moment. So what you need to do, and if you're willing to do this, is you need to start really becoming aware of your sensations. As soon as you as soon as you feel those sensations, you need to become aware of those sensations, because if not, the cycle is going to continue. And a lot of guys I coach and work with, because a lot of guys may not know this, but I'm also a yoga teacher. And one of the things I teach my clients when we have coaching calls is that when people go through life and they have the jobs, they have the careers, they have everything going for them, a lot of times people don't like to become aware and observe themselves, because sometimes when you observe yourself and you become aware of yourself, one thing that you have to deal with is you have to deal with yourself. And sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes our shit actually does stink. Well, not sometimes, all the time it does. And a lot of people avoid the work because they don't want to go through that. They don't want to flush out all the bullshit and all the dirty, nasty things that keeps them stuck in life. And so what they do is they become workaholics. They become alcoholics. They gamble. They do all these things to really mask what's going on with them. And sometimes they're not even aware. But the thing is, when I coach guys and I help them become more aware, and I show them that, hey, this is who you are. This is you, man. Like, look at yourself. When I do that, a lot of those guys get not not afraid. It's just they never had anybody in their life to actually create the space for them to be themselves, but also to work on themselves. And what I mean by that is, when you go through life, I want you to think about it. When you go to school, when you get your career, when you have your job, when you do all of those things, who can you actually talk to that isn't trying to influence you into their way of thinking, or they're not trying to have their agenda on what's best for you, or they're trying to tell you something that you shouldn't hear or you don't need to hear? And what I'm trying to say is, there's a lot of times that when you do open up to people, or you talk to people, and you try to have that space and just share who you are, a lot of times you got to understand people have their own problems. People aren't necessarily, especially if it's family or friends, people aren't trained to really listen to what you have to talk about, because they have their own problems, they have their own issues, and sometimes they like to dump their shit onto you. And sometimes they don't really care about what you got going on, especially if it's a colleague, somebody at work. They really don't care. So what happens is you never get that chance to really have that space to where you can examine yourself for who you are, and somebody to help you process through those tough times. There's been plenty of times where guys would share things with me, And it caught me off guard because I was like, man, I did not know you were dealing with that. I didn't know that this situation was bothering you. And going back to what I was saying is when you actually take the time to get to know yourself and you really examine yourself, it can be scary sometimes because when did you really have an opportunity or a chance to explore things or explore yourself? That's when you were a toddler, when you were a kid. I mean, think back, you used to climb the trees, you used to go out and ride your bike, you used to go into the woods, you used to be adventurous. You know, things didn't bother us. When we were younger boys and we were kids, we were so adventurous, things didn't bother us. And the problem with it now is that when you get to a certain age, you just turn it off because you have to, hey, you got family, you got bills, you got your career, and you don't have the time to really focus on what needs to be focused on. And so that's a lot of times that's why a lot of people, you see them get to these certain positions in life and they're empty inside, or they feel like they have no purpose, or they don't have any drive to do things or become better or become greater because they never took the time to really understand why they have that emptiness inside them, if that makes sense. So let me go back to, I kind of went off on a tangent, but let me go back to what I was saying. So you have to become aware of those sensations in your body whenever you get frustrated or whenever you're in a conversation and you can see that the conversation starting to get heated. What you have to do is you have to take a step back and actually become an observer, like actually observe what you're feeling, observe what you're thinking, and do it without judgment. You can't judge yourself because the moment that you judge yourself, it's going to be another loop of frustration because now you're upset because of what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're feeling. And now you're upset that you're even thinking what you're thinking. And it's just a cycle that is just, it's a ever ending cycle. But you want to observe yourself without judgment, but also become aware. And then when you are aware of that situation, okay, I'm starting to get pissed off. Whenever you get aware, whenever you become aware of that, here's the thing that you can do. One thing that you can do is start to question why. Start to question why. Don't just observe and become aware like, oh, I'm starting to get pissed off, man. I'm pissed off. I know I'm pissed off. Okay, that's great. Why are you pissed off? You have to ask yourself those questions because when you ask yourself those questions and you understand that, okay, I'm pissed off because of this, this, and that. Okay, for example, I'm pissed off because of something she said. Okay, you're pissed off because of something she said. What about what she said made you pissed off? Okay, I didn't like her tone of voice, or it seemed like she was just trying to get a rise out of me, or it seems like this, seems like that. Okay, what about that pisses you off? And you have to really ask yourself those questions. And I know it's like, okay, in this situation, in the moment, you're not even thinking about that. I get that. But you have to ask yourself those questions because when you start to become curious and you start to ask yourself those questions, guess what? Now your brain is saying, okay, this isn't a fight or flight situation because he's asking questions. Because if this was a serious situation, he wouldn't be asking these questions. He'd be trying to get the fuck up out of Dodge or fight or flight. You know what I mean? So when you do that and you start to ask yourself those questions, you'll notice that you'll actually become more calmer. But the other thing that you want to do is you want to get yourself out of that situation, depending on what it is, because some women, they don't like you to leave when they're talking to you or there's a conversation. But you can just simply say, hey, look, I don't mean no disrespect. I just need a minute. I'm going to go for a walk. Or, hey, I'm going to go for a walk for a minute, and you have the right to do that. If you're upset and you're angry, you have a right to do that. And that's what you have to make sure that you let her know that, hey, I need to go for a walk. And she should respect that. If she doesn't respect that, that's kind of like a red flag because, a woman should let you do what you need to do. But that's what happens, right? And when you start to become aware and you start to question why you are upset or angry or whatever is going on, and then you take a walk, you're starting to train your mind and your body to slow the fuck down. And you're starting to train your mind and your body to realize that a conversation with your woman is not a real threat. Because right now, your mind and your body thinks that a conversation with your woman is a real threat. So that's why you go from 0 to 100 super fast without even thinking about it. Because the moment that you get upset and you don't stop and think about what you're doing and the situation, the moment that you don't stop and do that, once you get that shot of adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream, there is no turning back. It's like the point of no return. It's just like when you ejaculate, you can't stop it. You can't. You're going to ejaculate. You can't stop it, and that's the same with your anger. When you start to get angry and it turns into rage, it's because everything's on full throttle to make sure that you survive. That's the whole purpose. That's the whole purpose of it, man. That's the whole purpose of it. But when you actually start to question why you get upset and you take a deep breath and you relax and you go for a walk, then you start to train your body and your mind that okay, this isn't this isn't a threat. Well, I'm just having a conversation with my woman. I may not like what she's saying, she may not like what I'm saying. At the same time, I can control myself. I can make sure that I get to the level that there is no return. And like I said, it takes a third of a second. But when you start to practice and you start to be mindful and you start to become aware and you question those thoughts that cause you to be angry in the first place, everything will change. But it takes constant practice. It's not just like you watching this video and you say, "Oh, that sounds good, man. I think I'm gonna try that." No, you actually need to try it. You actually need to try it, and you actually need to incorporate it into your day-to-day life. Anything, everything you do. If you're in traffic and somebody pisses you off, think about why it pisses you off. Take a deep breath. When you're in a meeting, maybe you're with your boss or with your employees or employers, and they piss you off, or you take what they say and it upsets you, think about why does it upset you? Everything is in your control because here's the thing, you can't control what other people do. You can't control what other people say or how they respond. You can influence them, but the only person that you can control is yourself. And I'd rather for you to control yourself and not get to the point where a person pushed your buttons or upset you to the where you get angry and violent and all this other stuff. I'd rather you have that under control. Because here's the thing I didn't mention, and I don't want to sound morbid or negative. However, if you don't get those things under control, it messes with your body. If you don't have your anger under control, you don't try to really change it. If you don't really try to change it and really practice mindfulness and you don't practice controlling yourself before it gets to where it's dangerous, internally it can fuck with your body. I'm not going to say everything that it does. I will say that, it's not good for your heart. It's not good for your blood pressure. It's not good for your thoughts. It's not good for your stomach. There's a lot of things that are not good for you becoming angry all the time and going from 0 to 100 and becoming enraged, right? It's not healthy for you. That's the biggest thing. And so I want you to keep something in mind. This is going to be difficult. I get it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. I get it. It's not supposed to be easy. But what I want you to understand is that with the knowledge that you know now, if a woman or anybody is able to push your buttons to the point where you feel that way and you become angry and it turns into rage, that person has control over you. That person has control over you. Because if you want to have power and you want to be successful in life and you want to have control, you have to start with yourself. You have to start with yourself. If whatever happens on the outside world, no matter if it's your woman, your family, it doesn't matter who it is, it's all about how you respond. And here's the twofold thing. Even if you don't respond in a negative way, even if you don't react, you still must be able to control your inner world. You still must be able to control your thoughts because it's a old saying. I think it was a Zen saying or something like that. I'm not completely sure, but it says that getting mad at somebody or holding on to anger is like holding on to a holding on to a hot coal and expecting the other person to get burned. So if you're holding on to something, you're upset and you're angry, and that's the thing too. You don't want to hold on to shit even after the situation is done. That's a total different topic. We'll talk about another day. But if your woman says something, does something, and internally you feel a certain type of way, and you get upset and angry, even if you don't lash out, even if you don't become enraged or whatever, it's still stuff going on inside your body on a cellular level. It's still stuff going on in your body on a cellular level that it's not good for you. So you have to control how you not just respond to people or your woman, you have to control how you interpret, internalize, and your perception and perspective of what you take in. You have to, because all it takes is you to always internalize something that someone does or says in a negative way. Even if it's not negative, even if it is, it doesn't matter. If you internalize it in a negative way, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with how you internalize it. And if you get upset and enraged inside, just like if you're on the road and you're driving and somebody does something where they cut you off or they drive crazy and you get upset, they don't fucking know. They could be just minding their own business, not even knowing what the fuck's going on, having a great, glorious day. But you allow what they did to upset you and upset your day and to get you all worked up. That's not having any power or control over yourself. But like I said, I know it's difficult. I know it's challenging. I know that you may be having conversations with your woman and it doesn't turn out the way you thought it was going to turn out, or she doesn't get you, or maybe she plays victim and it's frustrating. I get all of that, guys. I talk to so many guys that deal with that stuff. You have to understand that you are in control of you. You're the only person that is in control of you. Nobody else is in control of you. And you have to have your own power, your own personal power. You have to become empowered, because when you're empowered and you have your own personal power, then you can shift a lot of shit, not just inside of you, but you'll be able to persuade and influence people outside of you. But I'm going to go ahead and get off of here because I got to go get some food. I'm hungry and go to sleep. But that's what it's all about, man. It's all about just being able to really become aware of your thoughts when those situations come up and question those thoughts and taking some time out to go for a walk or breathe. But I want to say your biggest asset and your most powerful weapon that you have when it comes to controlling the anger or anything is breathing. It's breathing, because when you're upset or you're angry or you're anxious or even when you're about to ejaculate, your breathing is different than when you're calm. Your breathing is totally different when you're calm or when you're asleep or you're dozing off. Your breathing is different. So when you start to tap into the breath and you slow down, your body will also realize that, okay, it's time for us to slow down. Because the body and the brain are connected. When you question the thoughts that come up in your mind when you get upset, when you start to question those thoughts, it calms you down a little bit because now it's more curious. It's not like, oh, this is fight or flight. Now it's more curious because you're questioning those thoughts. Why am I getting upset? And then when you start to breathe, you're calming yourself down because it's telling the body, you know, you need to calm down. Because your body doesn't intellectually know what you're saying. Your mind does, but the body, it doesn't matter what language that you know, when you breathe slower and you breathe deeper, that calms the body down. So when you combine the two of you question your thoughts of why you're pissed off or upset, and then you also begin to breathe slower, those two connect. Now your brain and your body is saying, hey, this is not a threat. And you do that over and over and over. And then you train your mind and your body to realize when conversations like this happen with my woman or anybody else, we don't get upset. We actually just get curious and we're calm. And the more you can do that, man, the better it's going to be because that's when you have more tools at your disposal. That's when you're able to communicate more assertively, more effectively. That's when you're able to talk to your woman in a way where she can understand you. That's when you're able to see what the fuck is really going on. Because when you're in fight or flight, you can't see what's going on. You just want to survive. And when you want to survive, none of the other shit matters. None of the tools, none of the tricks, none of the whatever, none of that matters because your mind and your body just wants to survive. So that's all I got. I see we got a couple comments on here, but once you understand it, man, it'll make a lot of sense, and then you can apply it to your life. And once you start that foundation of being more calm and mindful, then everything else will fall into place. You can advance in your relationship and your situation a lot further than you expected once you become calm and you actually become curious and you just become present. But other than that, this has been a great live. If you're watching the replay, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this to a guy that you know that may get upset. This will really help him out. And replay this again and really think about what I'm saying. Really listen and dissect what I'm saying because the first time around, you may watch this and listen to it and be like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Nah, and you may already have preconceived ideas of what I'm going to say in the future of this video, but listen to it non-judgmental, listen to it with an open mind. Tabula rosa, like a blank slate, just what is he really talking about? Listen to it, dissect it, maybe stop it, take some notes, and really think about what I'm saying. Really, really think about what I'm saying and apply it to your life. And I guarantee you, you will notice a difference. If you're watching this video and you notice that you get upset with your woman and you get angry and frustrated, watch this video more than once. Watch it 3 times and really apply what I'm saying. Other than that, it's been a great one. You guys are outstanding. I appreciate each and every one of my subscribers. I do this for you guys. Until next time, you guys have a great one. Take care.